Every once in a while, we will circle back and hit a review topic. We'll do that more and more moving forward as we cover more and more information. Today's review topic is on operations with fractions, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing fractions. We will talk through the steps. These should go in your notes, and then we'll take a look at a few example problems. Today's notes will be a little shorter than they are on some other days. So to add or subtract fractions, the steps are the same whether we're adding or subtracting the fractions. The first thing we need is a common denominator. So we will find the least common multiple of all the denominators. From there, we will create equivalent fractions that have that common denominator. Create equivalent fractions. All of the denominators should be the same, whatever that least common multiple of the denominators was. We are going to then add or subtract, depending on what the operation tells us to do, the numerator. So across the top, we are going to either add or subtract. The denominator should stay the same. And then the last step is always going to be write our answer in simplest form. Reduce your answer to simplest, not from. So steps to add or subtract fractions. We are going to start by finding the least common multiple of the denominators. We are going to rewrite our fractions as equivalent fractions with the same denominator. We need to add or subtract across the top. The bottom stays the same. And then finally reduce our answer to simplest form. To multiply fractions. Multiplying fractions, it's a little easier because we do not need a common denominator. We just multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, and reduce. So again, multiplying fractions, we multiply across the top, we multiply across the bottom, and reduce. And then finally, to divide fractions, we multiply by the reciprocal. Multiply by the reciprocal. Keep, so the first fraction stays the same. Change, instead of dividing, we change it to multiplication, and flip. The reciprocal is found by flipping the numerator and the denominator. And then because we're multiplying, multiply by the reciprocal, now we're multiplying fractions, so you follow these steps. Multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, reduce to simplest form. So to divide fractions, that's when we keep, change, flip. And then because we're multiplying, we follow the steps for multiplication. Let's take a look at example 1 here. Example 1 asks us to add or subtract each of the following. Part A is an addition problem. We are asked to add 3/4 and 5/8. 3/4 plus 5/8. So we want to start by looking at the denominators. Our denominators are 4 and 8. We need to make those both the same thing. We are looking for a multiple of 4 and 8 that matches up. You might recognize it right away. If not, we can start listing out the multiples. Multiples of 4 would be 4, and then 4 times 2, 4 times 3, 4 times 4. Multiples of 8 are 8, and notice right away we've already got one that matches up. We're looking for the smallest multiple that they have in common. So step 1 said to find the least common multiple between the denominators. That is 8. Step 2 said to write our problem with the same denominator. We are changing to equivalent fractions. To do that, we look at the denominator. It was 4. Now it's 8. We want to think about what did I multiply 4 by to get 8. We multiplied the bottom by 2. 4 times 2 gives me 8, so we need to multiply the top times 2. 2 times 3 is 6. The denominator on this one was 8 and is still 8. We didn't change the bottom, so don't change the top. That was step 2, where it said to write equivalent fractions. Step 3 said to add the numerators. 6 plus 5 is 11. But the denominators stay the same. They were both 8, so it stays 8. And then the final step said to reduce our fraction. 11 and 8, you want to think about if there's anything I can divide those both by, if they have a common factor. The only thing that goes into 11 is 1 times 11. 8 is not divisible by 11. That is it. That is our answer. We are going to leave it like that, 11 over 8. If you want to change it to a mixed number, you can. You could write it as 1 3/8. I would leave it as 11 over 8. Part B. Part B is a subtraction problem. We do it the same way though, 1/2 minus 2/3. We need to get a common denominator between our denominators. 2 has factors of, multiples of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 3 has multiples of 3, 3 times 2. And as soon as we see one in common, we can stop. There's our least common multiple. It is 6. We are going to make both of the denominators 6. Now we rewrite the equivalent fractions. 2 times what gives us 6? 2 times 3 is 6, so we multiply the top by 3 as well. 3 times 1 is 3. We want to think through 3 times what gives us 6. 3 times 2 gives us 6. So we multiply the top by 2 as well. 2 times 2 is 4. We add, or in this case subtract, the numerators. 3 minus 4 is -1. And we keep the denominator the same. Finally, reduce if you can. The numerator is 1, so there is nothing I can divide both the numerator and denominator by. Example 2 is a multiplication problem. We are given 4/5 times 7/8. 4/5 times 7/8. To multiply fractions, we just multiply straight across. 4 times 7 is 28. 5 times 8 is 40. And then we reduce if we can. 28 and 40, we want to divide those both by the same thing. Because they're both even numbers, we might pretty quickly recognize that they are both divisible by 2. 28 divided by 2 is 14. 40 divided by 2 is 20. They're still both even numbers. We need to completely simplify. We can divide both by 2 again. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 20 divided by 2 is 10. Multiples of 10 are 2 times 5. 7's not divisible by either of those, as well as 1 times 10. The only thing that goes into 7 is 1. So there is our answer, 7 over 10. You may have also recognized at this step, instead of dividing by 2, if you find the biggest common factor. There's a bigger one than 2. They're actually both divisible by 4. You can get to the final answer faster if you choose the biggest one. 28 divided by 4 is 7. 40 divided by 4 is 10. And we get the same answer, but in one step instead of 2. Either way, we should get 7 over 10. Example 3 is a division problem. Asks us to divide 2/3 by 8/9. 2/3 divided by 8/9. When we divide fractions, this is when we keep, change, flip. Keep the 2/3, change to multiplication, flip. Instead of 8 over 9, we write it as 9 over 8. That is called multiplying by the reciprocal. The reciprocal is when we flip. 2/3 times 9/8. Now we just do 2 times 9 is 18. 3 times 8 is 24. We're at our answer. It just needs to be simplified. We can divide the top and the bottom. You can either do it in a couple steps, or if we find the biggest thing that goes into both. So we could divide them both by 2. Let's see if there's any bigger. 18 divided by 3 and 24 divided by 3 both come out even. And if they're both divisible by 2 and 3, that means they're both divisible by 6. The biggest number we can divide them both by is 6, giving us 3 over 4. 3 over 4 is our correct answer.